What's going on, everybody? Got a little bit of time here. I wanted to start doing the weekly review. Only took 7 trades this week. Obviously, only one was a winner on the opening range play on a mat. I haven't really gone over the rest of these quite yet, but I do remember that Macy's was a little funky. Baba was a trade I shouldn't have taken. IQ was, I think IQ was actually supposed to take loss, but I don't know. There might be something about it that I find later on. And then we had the Walmart and the STZ, which were also second day plays as well. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with that. But looking at the daily here, see, lost 2 days there. 2 days where I didn't trade at all. And then the weekly, 1 for 7 down 220. Shares traded definitely not near as big as last time. $50 in commissions, just about. Only one winning day. $140 about $140 for non-compliance trades. That might be a little off. I kind of did that just at a glance, really, because I never really got the chance to go over the trades exactly yet. So really, this probably shouldn't be too long of a video. Only got 7 trades to go over, and I already remember most of them. So just kind of wanting to see what happens here. So TPR was the first trade that I took, where I am taking an SMB VWAP and consolidation trade on it here. I was risking about $100, so I lost 84. So I was up $100 at one point. So at one point, it's probably this trade right here. I know it says Baba, maybe it wasn't it. This is the TPR trade. So one thing that I wanted to consider doing, because I noticed, within the stats and just how I've been trading other trades, is that whenever I'm up 1R, to move my stop loss to break even, to obviously prevent any further losses and really lock in gains or possibly a break even trade. So I mean, it looks pretty good in here. Really strong move at the open, failed to move any higher and got rejected pretty hard. Went into VWAP, same thing again though. Got above VWAP, pretty strong moves, came back to VWAP, and it failed to move lower, and now we're kind of sitting here consolidating underneath the whole number around 52. Huge numbers there on the S. That's 100,000 shares there. So I mean, just at a glance, it looks like a really good trade. So I am definitely trying to take it long over that whole number. So I was in at 52.02. So it's taking a while to break the number. Obviously, I guess I can't say obviously, because I can't quite tell. I'm not going to call it a hidden seller, but I suppose I could label this as an unusual buyer-seller trade too, because that's massive. You don't see that every day. Alright. Sit at 99. Up at 52, and then usually whenever somebody sees this, somebody massive's got to take them out. I mean, obviously you can judge it by the speed of the tape and how fast it's moving down, but if somebody decides they want to buy 100,000 shares, or if this guy just fades away, okay, so something obviously happened here. What's going on? VLC is doing this thing again. Okay, so super slow, because I just want to try and at least maybe get a read on what's going on. So, I mean, it's just somebody huge had to have come in and taken them out. I don't really see, I mean, unless there's like algos or something buying after somebody else is buying. So we get a decent break, immediately rejected, and we're right back below the whole number again. So that's definitely not a good sign. But kind of the same situation. I mean, because I'm not up 1R, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm risking about 25 cents on it. So about 30 cents on it, so I'm trying to make 30. So if this thing gets up to 52.30, then I would want to be moving my stop loss. Come on, VLC. So it's really slow right now. It's really slow, and we are not above the whole number, which is definitely two bad signs that it's a pretty poor entry. But I mean, if it's respecting the technical levels, then there's no reason to get out of the trade quite yet. It's pretty slow. I mean, really slow. Okay, so we get above it. Kind of sitting above it, but still slow. I mean, it's definitely not like a breakout or anything. So I mean, right off the bat, the trade it's just not great because of how slow it is and how little it's actually moving. Come on, man, I need to go back to the trade. What are you doing? I can't even see anything. I'm up $100. I'm not even paying attention to it. Alright, now I go to it. Well, it obviously got to 30. Maybe even then some. And then at this point is when I need to start being worried, because it made an attempt to move higher, failed, got rejected twice now off of big selling pressure, really. And then this is definitely a point where I need to start considering moving my stop loss at least near break even, or under 52. And now I got that trend line to worry about as well. Yeah, at this point I think I should just be getting out of the trade, because I also recognize that the trend line was there, obviously causing some more resistance going into this. And I mean, there's nothing wrong, because I think this is a point where I need to just get out of the trade and just see what happens, because it's not really breaking either way, and now it's almost got a kind of symmetrical triangle starting to form here. I mean, it could obviously go either way. Also, the SPY, what was the SPY doing? The SPY was actually dropping pretty hard. It dropped about 40 cents from the duration of this trade. You know, I'm still giving it the chance, and then it breaks underneath. And then from that point, I don't really know what it did. Yeah, I mean, this is fine, because this also sets up for another good risk-reward scenario. I mean, I can get an entry as close as I possibly can to VWAP, and you know, the stop loss is now underneath 50. Because over here, it only failed to break underneath this once, and then twice, and then I got my entry, and that's where I placed my risk. Well, now, because if I waited long enough, I can tell that there's two levels that have held now, especially on the 5-minute chart, setting up for a really good risk reward. So then if it wants to move higher, that's fine. I can re-enter the trade. I suppose I did not do it. I mean, look at that. It's still setting up. I mean, there's definitely nothing wrong. Like this candle here, entry here, entry here. I mean, after this, you know, I can move my stop loss up again because we're getting much tighter. So I put in, oh, I did try and get another entry in down there, but I was just a little too late on it, I think. When did I put that? Yeah, I put that in way too late. It looks like from that point on, from this point on, yeah, it did finally start taking off, though I don't really know what would have happened. My profit target would have been at high a day, and I probably would have gotten stopped out with my final position over around here. So it wasn't the cleanest setup from the beginning, but I absolutely could have reduced my losses on that. So the mistake on that trade. Up 1R, stop loss, break even. I mean, there's, again, I swear I tell myself this every single week. There's nothing wrong with getting out of a trade, readjusting, refocusing, and getting back into the trade. Nothing wrong with getting out and back in after it has set up again. Alright, so that was TPR. That was manageable. That could have been 0. Definitely could have been 0. So next was this Macy's. Remember a little bit about the Macy's. The Macy's, the volume just never came in and it was really slow, so I just said forget it and I was out. Which that's fine for me, because especially early in the morning, if volume did come in and it didn't go in my direction, this could have easily been $200, $300. Baba trade was pretty ugly, but we'll go for Macy's first. I was looking at Macy's, 10-cent spread, volume hadn't come in. I always know that on stocks that are like this, sometimes it just takes a second or two. So, and this is also what confused me a lot, is this bid right here, just kind of frozen at $9.99, but price being underneath it, and then it's kind of playing off of these two. So I don't really know what this is. It's not the first time I've seen something like that either. Alright, so we got filled at 81. Happening. VLC. So I mean, you can see him hitting the bid here. I mean, these are all solid reds right now. That's really strange. They're all solid red. Solid red, but the price isn't moving. We get down a little bit, but the ask isn't really stepping down with the bid, and then it pops back up. I put my stop loss, or no, I tried to cover completely at that point, trying to get out close to break even as possible, but I messed with my level 2 boxes and everything, and I think something just didn't get synced with my hot buttons, so I'm pretty sure that's what I clicked. Yeah, I click that buy all to get me out, and it just sends that in. I'm not really sure what this is. I don't know what happened that it didn't get me out, but it didn't get me out. I mean, volume eventually picked up, and it did start tanking, you can see on the next candle, but if I decided to hold through that, I don't really know what would have happened. I mean, I would have seen this spike down, I might have taken some off there, and then as it came back up, took more off, but set up for a kind of a tough opening range play too. So then we had so yeah, Macy's did end up, that was Macy's. That's Macy's. Macy's just kept going. So then we had Baba making a pretty nice symmetrical triangle. The main problem with this one is that it spent most of the time on this triangle above VWAP, and that's the problem, and I'm trying to look for this thing for a short, obviously because the day is terribly red on the SPY. So I remember I was waiting for it to actually make a move out of this thing and then catch it on the retest. So decent move underneath it. And then at this point, I would want it to hold underneath VWAP and those moving averages. But it's definitely too early to decide quite what I want to do with it. But it's making a nice move. It gets down to around their IQ set up later, but thought there might be something at 25, I guess. way too fast. Didn't look like there was anything there, so no trade on it. So now, looking at Baba, what are you doing? Looking at Baba, kind of getting rejected on that 167. 167 definitely looks like it's holding. Had some trouble over here at the opening of the day, and then it failed to move under it again. And I guess after it made such a strong move away from this 167, kind of gives you more of a hint that it's going to be a significant level to worry about later on as well. But I mean, regardless of that, I mean, it looks like it wants to make a move out of this thing. So there's definitely an opportunity for a trade somewhere in here. So put my order in, trying to get filled at 50. I don't remember exactly what happened there, but I did get a pretty good fill. It like clipped me in and shot right back down to 30s. So I'm already sitting up 80 bucks on the trade. You know, there's 20 cents already. So now at this point, I want to see it be moving underneath the recent low of the candle, which it looks like it's getting ready to do right now. And then obviously with everything still coming down underneath it, it looks like it could be a really solid trade here. The only problem is I need to worry about this 167. The 167 might be a spot that I need to be taking profits at, doing something with. Oh, come on. And back to the order, it pops up in the 40s it looked like, and then somehow I got filled. It's making a pretty decent move, but then obviously all the green spiking it straight back up, causing some concerns. Makes an attempt to move a little lower again, no follow through on the tape. Kind of making an attempt into the mid-20s again, still failing. Not too much going on here. So now at this point is when I start seeing all this green on the tape. On the green, it's getting a little slower, and then we failed again at that 20s. More green popping back up. At this point, I need to be thinking about getting out of the trade. But I end up letting this thing run all the way up into the 70s here. I mean, I need to be really careful with... Oh, I did get out. I did get out at 65. When did I get out there? I mean, it's struggling way too hard to get back underneath this, because there's definitely a bunch of things about this trade that was in my favor and not in my favor. It's a really clear pattern. It made a really clear breakdown out of underneath this pattern. Moving averages are on top of the pattern, on top of price, helping push it down right next to VWAP here. It's set up for a really good entry. The problems are that it's been most of the time above VWAP, and it broke hard early in the day from 167, and it attempted once near 167, showing that it doesn't want to break any further at that point, and then it went again to 167, but this time it was coming out of the pattern. So I mean, it's almost like a 50-50. I think the price action after I entered the trade, though, definitely shows me that I should have been thinking about getting out, close to break even as possible, or maybe even a little earlier. I mean, still, I took 500 shares on it, and I only lost about 15 cents on it. So I mean, it's really, what did I do? What just happened? I mean, I only lost 15 cents on it. I was able to get such big size on it. So I mean, if the thing wanted to break down towards 167, what I should have done is take some more, take some off at least. I don't know. I guess Baba wasn't as bad as I thought it was. if I remember right, it did end up moving lower at some point. Yeah, it had to have the 50 come into it first, and then it finally made a move down underneath it. But I mean, at this point, I don't really know what I'd be looking at. I don't know, because I mean, after this point, it broke underneath. It never pulled back for a second, so I don't really know if I could have gotten an entry. Really, it's just not that clean. It's just, I don't know. It's just kind of a difficult trade, really. I mean, after this trend line failed as well, and then it popped up underneath it, it's just kind of hard to read. I think, I don't know, maybe with the SPY being down as much as it was, it does make a difference on how stocks trade and whatnot. Plus, BABA also was 3 RVOL, which is very low for obviously any of the other ones that you can see on here. So I came to the conclusion after this that I only want to be trading things, around 10 or more is what seems to be what's most profitable for me. So I don't know. This is kind of a forced trade. It wasn't a terrible trade. I took the risk on, 15 cents on a $167 stock is definitely pretty big to be able to get that tight risk on it like that. I don't know. Maybe I could have saved myself a little bit of money in there. Maybe not. It never really went that far in my favor either. So I mean, I can barely call it went 1R in my favor, because 15 cents to this isn't really anything. Alright, so then we got IQ. So IQ, I believe, was a forced trade in my case. At this point, I remember thinking in the day that everything was kind of everywhere. Nothing was really clean. It's everything spent so much time consolidating around. I'd already missed the good trades. I know Macy's was a somewhat good short at some point in the day, and before I took this trade, I think I was just trying to find something to short, because SPY was massively red. Everything's massively red. Something's just gotta go with the SPY. So I was just trying to catch anything, really. I mean, again, it's long consolidation, just kind of really not doing much of anything. I mean, volume's dying out again. But I go for the short here. I'm only trying. I think this was a half size one. Yeah, this was the half size one. So I put in a limit order at 26 to get half my size. Stop loss above this little consolidation here for sure. And then just trying to add the rest if it can break underneath this little consolidation. Which really, I don't really see. I think getting half size here is a mistake, because it can easily go either way. And clearly, if it breaks underneath this, it kind of confirms the short. So I'm entering in on a trade where it may or may not confirm it. I don't know. I think it's kind of an early entry. Probably too early. Looking at the 5's got underneath, popped up, 9's coming down on it. I mean, it doesn't look that bad. I got my 500. Yeah, I mean, it's just it just doesn't make that much sense, because my stop from that entry is just right above. And I mean, yeah, it's only like close to $50, but at the same time, why am I don't know, because it's much more clear to take a position underneath this consolidation here than it is to have my risk that tight, because that's just not that much. And the other mistake that I made on this one is I made it my goal last week to take a failed short long, and this IQ was the perfect trade to take a failed short long, because after seeing all of this stuff and it's still failing to break lower, once it gets out of this triangle that it just made, and after it failed a couple of times here to move any lower, this is confirmation that it wants to move higher, not lower. I mean, it did take off after that too. I was looking at BABA compared to anything else, you know, maybe a more confirmed move on BABA would be to short it underneath this, underneath that 167 level, instead of trying to catch a good entry up here. Yeah, IQ at that point started taking off from there. So the mistake on IQ was there was a clear price that had to break lower. I don't really know how to say what my mistake was in this. I mean, one, there was FOMO, and it just, I don't think it's that great, at least where I put my entry, it wasn't that great of a short from where my entry was, because, I mean, it failed twice at that level, and I'm trying to short it thinking that the third time it'll break that level, when I think in this case it was definitely a better trade to put my short order underneath this consolidation instead of trying to get a really tight risk-reward scenario here. I think I need to rephrase how I wrote that. So it was a clear short underneath consolidation, but I went for the better risk-reward trade when the better risk-reward trade was more bullish than it was bearish. So I know I'm trying to get better entries and whatnot, but just because it's a better entry with a better risk-reward doesn't mean that it's a good trade. And I mean, it's definitely clear that the better trade was to short it underneath this if it was able to break that. Yeah. Okay. So then the last day, just on Friday, I took a mat in that Walmart NSTZ. I'm not going to go over these too much. I went over them a lot the other day, but I guess we can go over a mat real fast. So mat, very strong move, very weak, right from the open here. What I absolutely want to see it do is consolidate for just a little tiny bit here. So we do get that. So it's 9:35, 5-minute candle closes. We got 5 giant red candles, just touched that 43 where we saw a bunch of buyers. So at this point, this candle is basically going to tell me where my risk is, and then I definitely want to short it underneath that for a continuation of this and the opening range breakdown. A little too fast here. Let's go back to 4301 at low a day. It was struggling there at 01. I put my order in at 99 because if there's problems at 1, there could very well be problems at the whole number as well. So it's kind of bouncing around. I definitely don't mind that it gives me the consolidation, because now it just looks really good. Like, we get this big failed attempt to push higher, so we get a nice big gravestone doji here with a big wick, and then all we need is price action to confirm that it wants to go lower. This might have even been a situation where I could have just hopped in this thing a lot earlier. It wouldn't be now. But as soon as we start seeing this tape speed up, get a lot more red, because we're seeing a ton of green up here around this 50, the high 40s, 50s area, and we got nothing here. So this is kind of its second attempt to move lower. So right about now, I could start thinking about getting an earlier entry. Then we just see red and we're making a beeline straight forward again. Definitely a really good setup. Didn't make it to the 30s. Made it to the 30s again. So I reduced my size a little bit. I think I did that just for an adjustment on my risk. But at the same time, it's such a good setup. I mean, I don't know, I think I should have stayed with the 750. I mean, it is definitely a really good looking setup. Though I didn't notice it. Okay, so there I finally got filled. As we broke underneath it, you can see how the tape was really picking up speed there. I do want to watch that again. But also, we're so close to minus 10% on the gap that I should have been a little more aware of that, because I know as soon as that minus 10% hits, that circuit breaker pops on. Speed. That speed is going crazy. And then we get underneath. 650 short at 96. Nothing special yet. So that's actually pretty worrisome that we get down there and it pops straight back up. So my risk on it was 43.30. So I was risking about 30 cents on it. So we got to a high about 42.15-ish before we got back underneath the whole number. And at this point, it's a waiting game. But I mean, again, we bounce a little bit and it starts pumping back up. So at this point, I'm getting a little sketched out by it. So I decided to take a little bit off early to lock in a teeny bit of gains. Definitely nothing special. Make an attempt to move lower again. Come back up again to the 90s. But it looks like this time we're not getting over the whole number. So I remember I wanted to see it in the 60s before I took anything off. So there it is. So now we're down 10%. We're in the 60s and the circuit breaker pops on. And then just watching price action from this point on, it's very easy to tell that it's time to get out, all out. So we're stuck. We're stuck. The tape is still flowing really quick, but we're not moving anywhere. So it's time to go. Yeah, seeing all that green, definitely the reason to get out was over there. So I mean, I traded that okay. You know, maybe taking this first little bit off wasn't that great, obviously because it was a winner and went in my favor. But I mean, just the way the price action was playing out, it just wasn't. It wasn't 100% as good as I thought it was gonna be. I mean, after we found that circuit breaker, popped straight back up to VWAP, and that was the end of it. As for the Walmart trade, Walmart was just flat out a mistake because I hope I go over something. There it was. So I mean, the main goal for these second day plays is, you know, in this case it was looking for an overshoot. Walmart capped up 10% on good news, which was problem number one, and problem number two is that it had a really strong open. So I mean, there's two overall bullish scenarios that I'm trying to short just because there was a symmetrical triangle in here. And I was trying to find a level that would be good to short at, which was this 98.50, because you can see in the past couple days, failed over here. So we failed up here at the first time. I thought the second time after it failed again would be a good spot to get into it. I was just still wrong. I mean, it was okay frame of mind. I mean, it's kind of the right thinking, you know, if it's failing at this level significantly, but just the other factors around it was not that great. And I think I put my stop loss at yesterday's high a day on it, which was really way too high. I mean, it just kept grinding from that point on, so there really wasn't anything special about it. It was probably a trade that I just should have avoided altogether. Then the STZ, almost got it. There we go. So STZ, same situation, gap down, bad news. It was kind of struggling at this 202 level. Thought that I could get short underneath it. We had it right at the open, very weak open. Kind of came back a little bit of VWAP, failed, but then it failed to move lower again, and then we had a big squeeze up. I don't remember exactly where it was I entered on it. So there was the STC. So I entered in as it was failing at the VWAP. I mean, that's not bad. Let me see if I can find it. Got underneath it. Was struggling really hard a bunch of times here at this 202. So after we had that open, my entry was right in here. So I saw I made that strong move, had a doji, had another doji. So I figured at this point, you know, this could definitely be a good spot to get short on this thing. I mean, I did. There was just no follow through from that point on, really. So I mean, it is moving in my favor. Where is it? I need to go back to it. So I mean, it failed at that point. You know, maybe I could have used a tighter stop loss, probably, instead of waiting for this thing to get all the way up here before I finally got out. I mean, a better situation would have been to actually look for an entry up here, because this is still really early in the day. I mean, the days are like 6 hours long. The market's open for like 6.5 hours. And this is only an hour and a half into the day. It's not even half of the day. So, I mean, if it fails at the actual level that I was originally trying to pay attention to in the first place, that could actually be where a better entry was. I mean, it ended up busting through it anyway, but you can see that it struggled, made another attempt. And after this failed attempt up here, that's when it finally took off, and that was the end of it. So, I mean, you know, I think I should have just been a little more patient on these second day plays. You know, if I'm playing it off of the 15-minute candles, then, you know, an hour into the day is only four 15-minute candles, when in total there's, I don't know, what, 25 or something. So, I mean, it's just, I'm getting a little more experience on the second day plays, which is good. Those are the new strategies that I'm trying to work with. But overall, the new things I got to work on is, if I'm up 1R, need to move my stop loss to break even. There's nothing wrong with getting out and back in of the trade after it has set up further, and further prove to you that your original idea was right. I mean, that Baba trade just kind of should have been a little more patient, I guess. And then there was a clear short underneath consolidation, and I went for the better risk-reward trade when the trade that I actually took on it was more of a bullish scenario than it was a bearish. So really, it was just kind of a poor reading of price action. I was thinking things were a good short when they were good long, like on the IQ trade. But I mean, overall, I'm down $200 on the week. Again, I mean, you know, I kind of looked at the stats a little bit more, you know, looking at my dollars at risk here. So for the entire week, I put on almost $1,000 at risk. And at the end of it, I'm only coming out down $200. Which obviously you want it to be green, you want it to be better, you want it to be at least closer to zero at a minimum. But I mean, to be putting on that much money and only being down, you know, $200, a fifth of what I was risking in total, you know, still same situation, using bigger size like this, I still feel like I'm managing my risk well. when I mean, I probably should have only taken maybe 4 trades this week instead of 7. I'm still kind of coming off of the high of taking 17 trades in 1 week. So I mean, really, it's not terrible. Again, same situation. It's nothing that one trade can't take me out of. What is it with that? So we had 350 plus about 200. So I mean, it's about $550 I'm down on the month in August. So now it's maybe up to 2 trades that I gotta take. They could be good winners to dig me out of the hole. Which, I mean, that's all it takes is one day seeing 2 good trades. Reading it well, making sure I'm taking the right entries on it. It's just more things I gotta work on, more mistakes I gotta try and fix. So I'm not too upset with it, as long as I can clearly tell what went wrong and what I need to fix. Then that's all that really matters. So not a big deal. Really not much else to do, so I'm gonna call it here. I guess I'll be back on Monday. Thanks for watching.